Hi, welcome to Mind and Body Wellness, a show where we talk about the health of your mind, body, and your spirit, where we interview a variety of guests from the mainstream to the alternative. I'm your host, Clovis Colley, and today in the studio I have with me Sarah McWilliams from Sarah McWilliams Art. And you're no longer an emerging artist, you're now getting to be known in the community.
Absolutely.
And so you've had a little journey over the last few years, and I knew you when you were a bit afraid to let people see your art. So we're going to talk a bit about what that was like, being hidden on the inside, and then getting to the point where you're showing your art to people, selling your art, and in a couple of galleries. That's in a small sense, you've kind of hit the big time in a regional kind of way, and that's something that a lot of artists would like to get to, or a point that a lot of artists would get to. How did you make that happen? How did you get from the fear to the showing your art in public?
And thank you for that. Yes, the journey of an artist is always very colorful, to say the least. As artist, I think I can speak for myself anyway. Part of your soul is kind of exposed within your drawing or painting because it flows through you in your creative process. And the scariest thing for me and many other artists I know is to put it out there, to let other people view your creation, because it is a part of you. And for myself, it was just kind of one of those things where I had, some good friends who encouraged me to get out there a little bit more and, believe in me as far as that goes. And then I was able to really, I guess the spirituality has helped me the most as far as a tool to expand, because one day, we'll just say, because this is how it really happened, was one day I just kind of, I got stuck in the little details of it all. I got stuck with all the things. Oh, it's not as I thought in my mind. It's coming out differently than what my vision was. So one day I got out the palette knife, which is a scary thing for artists because it does not forgive. And once you take that tool of a palette knife, which is a knife instead of a brush, and you pick up that paint and you lay it on, it stays. And it's very hard to blend. And you know what? It was so freeing for me. It was like, I'm an artist. I don't follow rules anyway. So I just started, just laying it down, and I did this floral arrangement, and it was very kinesthetic for me, and it flowed.
Now, what do you mean by kinesthetic?
Kinesthetic, I'm kind of...
So then you actually get a physical feeling from looking at the painting?
Yeah, actually it's funny because we all have our different styles and different techniques, and none of them are wrong or right. There's no judgment. But for myself, as you can tell with my hand gestures right now, I'm very expressive, and the kinesthetics of the movement, and it's kind of almost like it flows through my arm. Okay. If that makes sense.
Now, are you talking a bit about like getting into the zone like you do when you're playing pool, golf, sports?
Absolutely.
So your unconscious mind takes over a bit.
Yes. And, the zone is beautiful.
And so you go into a bit of an altered state when you're doing these paintings, and so this is coming from the part of your mind, the dreams, and your unconscious inner landscape, the creativity, the creative part of you. Mm-hmm. And so, do you experience the time distortion that most people talk about when they're playing sports, where time stands still? And
oh, absolutely. Actually, one of my paintings I started, at 2 o'clock. I thought it was like 3 o'clock, and it's midnight. I mean, it's an extreme time distortion. My phone rings. I can't even hear it.
Really?
Sometimes, yeah. Okay. It really is a zone. And yes, I've done golf and pool and all that, but this, for me, is very fitting, and it is a pretty big zone.
Sure. Now there's, when we talk about art, that could just mean so many things. I mean, why do we, back from the beginning of time, they're figuring out how to make dyes and putting it on the inside of a cave, and we got paintings that are tens of thousands of years old. So what is it about people that they feel the need to put what's in here on the outside?
I think it's just, kind of a natural thing as far as spirit. I think people like colors. I think it's just innately in our human brains to gravitate towards color and pictures and visuals. Some of us are more visually inclined, some of them aren't. But I think as a whole, it calls to people and it brings out emotion. And that's the thing, is to create a reaction, an emotion within someone.
So, people do all kinds of different things to alter their state, from meditation to, maybe taking drugs to doing things that they consider fun. And so I see it as, people do like to alter their states, and, maybe they get tired of the same old mundane thing. So is art a way to expand your, what are the words I'm looking for, to enhance your enlightenment or something of that sort?
Open up. Well, it kind of depends upon the artist. It depends upon the individuality. And as you know, humanity has a wide range of individuality. I have an eclectic blend of paintings down at the gallery. And one person completely gravitates towards the tree, another towards a flower, another towards the train, another towards a cow there. I mean, it just kind of depends on the person and the type and the style.
Right.
So, but it does I think it brings out good things in people, always. Even if it's dark, it brings out something within themselves that they can feel within themselves.
Right. Well, as you know, I have one of the paintings, or a lithograph of one of the paintings down at Jocelyn in my house of the fallen angels, and some people consider that a very dark thing, but I find it an absolute fascinating picture. I don't know, it's 300-400 years old, and I'm wondering what the artist was thinking when he painted that. And it was based upon a war between the good angels and the bad angels out of the Bible. And some people might be deeply disturbed by looking at this painting, but I look at it and find a lot of very interesting things in it. We have things, sand mandalas and Sri yantras and things that you look at that, Eastern philosophy says, well, expand your mind and open up different parts of your mind. And now, we're finding the same thing out in science. Different shapes, different colors going into your eyes will wake up different parts of your brain. Whereas one time we thought of it as something that was a very occultish or mystic. And now we're finding out there's very, very good brain science behind stimulating the eyes in a certain way, even stimulating your sense of smell. Whereas people would say the aromatherapy, what a load of garbage that is. But now we know, that you can have a certain scent and it'll turn on certain parts of your brain. So we're talking about vastly different amounts of art where, you're looking at classical things like Mona Lisa or the Botticellis and or the Last Supper by Da Vinci, and which has gained some notoriety because of the David what's his name, the novels.
Da Vinci Code.
The Da Vinci Code.
Yes,
and,
Dan Brown.
That gained some notoriety, and people are aware of some of the hidden messages through the geometry in this painting. What is going on there? There's some geometry behind that. What does that stuff mean?
Well, that, has come from the absolute beginning. Geometry is important in art, but doesn't always have to be a role. So it depends on the artist, what they want from inside, because now we have modern art. For myself, I think it's very important for my subjects because I paint a lot of animals, and I want the eyes to be the main focal point. So I'm going to bring colors into the eyes of the painting, and that by doing so, you have lines, you have different shapes that lead to one another to have a focal point. But as far as that goes back very, very, very far. And yes, thank goodness for Dan Brown. because he brought a lot of light to a lot of different art, and there's more art appreciators and out there now, and that's important. So, but yes, that sacred geometry. Da Vinci, he had the golden ratio down to a T. Why are we all drawn?
And that's pi, or the phi ratio.
Phi, yeah. But yes, we're all drawn to the Mona Lisa. And I actually had the opportunity to see it in the Louvre when I was younger, and I'm very grateful for that. It has perfect symmetry. And what is going on with that are the triangles are being formed out of the nautilus shape of that golden ratio. And so you keep leading back to the eyes, to the face. And he did a lot of fingers pointing and most of his paintings. So it leads you here to there. So your eye is able to move around the whole entire painting.
Right. Well, as you know, I have the Vitruvian Man in my intro and final to this show, and that's a sketch from Da Vinci that I very much appreciate. And you know, I find Da Vinci very mysterious, and am very curious about what he knew, and you know, maybe some of the things that he was trying to tell us that we haven't yet figured out. So I like the puzzle of that, and am absolutely very intrigued by Da Vinci. You know, art's very different now than maybe it was at his time, and you have a very, very colorful style, and so you have this cow that seems to be smiling with big, loving eyes, lots of colors, and you say you have broken some rules in that painting. And
yes.
What they always told me is know what the rules are, so that when you break them, you know how to deal with it. So, so what rules did you break in that painting?
I'm always breaking rules, but when it comes to art, I go outside. I guess the traditional thinking on it. By doing so, I take that palette knife for one. I'm not mixing colors, perhaps, you know, I'm not taking my red and yellow and making orange. I'm taking acrylic colors in bright primary colors, which is terrifying. And when I went to school, now nothing wrong with school, but when I went, don't use primaries, mix your colors, you know, outline. And for me, in a way, breaking the rules for me is being completely free with my palette knife and letting that flow through me and doing something different, I guess, than what is normally seen. I don't get detailed. I just let it fly. It just goes. It's intuitive. So when something flies the wrong way, because once that paint lands on there with a palette knife, it's you know, you can give it some drying time and go over it. It stays. So then I morph it to where that is, and I'm not having to make it look just like a cow. It's kind of vibrating with color. So.
Right. Is that the difference between good art and bad art? Or, you know, it's always subjective.
Yes.
But the art that comes from the, you know, I work with the unconscious mind. I help people talk to their unconscious mind. And when I see something, I think that comes from the unconscious mind, there's a difference.
Well, I think that has, you know, it's all up to interpretation. For myself, I am fortunate that I found my art when I knew myself. And self-growth, my spiritual path, my past has been nothing but colorful, as we all have colorful pasts. Mine's a little bit more vivid, so I've had a lot of human experiences that I have worked through, and so I feel as though I know myself in a way that I'm very actualized, so I have, you know, it doesn't matter if you put out a million different styles, it is up to that person, but I can only speak for myself in the fact that I feel congruent, and therefore when I paint, it is coming straight from me, and it kind of matches my whole belief system and everything that I want to imagine to be on that canvas. I ultimately, my goal, now, we can't control any reactions from anybody, and some people do not react. There are a variety of different art, but my personal goal as an artist, it doesn't matter if there's 100 people touched or just one person touched, but when somebody looks at my painting, I want them to feel somewhat of what I'm feeling inside, or just spirit in general. the love of animals. That's why I love animals, because they're just such gentle spirits, and I want them to see it in the eyes. I want them to see the colors that come through, and I want them to feel good as a whole, but there is some polarity to what I do, such as this one. The eyes are kind of sad in a way, but yet they have this dissonance in them. But yet we have a sunflower and a butterfly and another butterfly in bright colors. So there's a kind of a long face. So there's a little polarity there. Mm-hmm. But yet at the same time, I feel, and I have most of the people that look at it, you can't miss it, obviously. It's very colorful. But yeah, I love what I do. I love what I do. And I think that's the thing for any artist.
Now, what's fascinating to me about your journey is that you came out and months later, a few months later, you're in 2 or 3 different galleries.
Yes.
So that's quite a leap from nobody seeing your art to how did you get from there? Because there are a lot of artists that may be envious of your pretty rapid rise to local stardom in the art community. How did you make that happen?
Well, I guess my personal journey was, first, I let go that day and just said, whatever, fling that palette knife, and it hit. It clicked. It clicked beyond.
And that's really that's your stamp, you said?
That's kind of my stamp.
That's your calling
card.
Now,
this is only me. There's a lot of people that do a lot of different things, but I'm only speaking for myself as an artist, is that's kind of my stamp. So first, I just found something that I absolutely love. And then second, I had to get over the huge fear of exposing my art out there. And then it was all about just taking action, getting a resume, portfolio together, and just showing it to other people.
Oh, absolutely. When I first started this TV show, I was really hoping nobody would ever see it. I know that sounds a little funny, but we all have that we're our own worst critics. And I know I had a little bit of a catharsis once I got over the top, and I got a little freedom. And I think I think the Buddha said it, when you're trapped by what other people think about you, that's the worst trap you can ever be in life. And just thinking I'm on the show, possibly making a total fool out of myself and open to criticism, and going, yeah, well, I'm having a good time. I don't care. Did you experience any kind of catharsis for yourself in the same way?
Absolutely. I think just because I love what I do. I've had a lot of different jobs in my life. I tried creative fields, cosmetology and floral, but it's like I found something that is so true to me. And this is true for anybody with any career or what they want to do or hobby. And it's just like I can't not do this. It has to be done. And that I had to have the strength and those supporting around me, my family, my friends, their encouragement. It's just something that's like I had to get out there. I had to get over my personal feelings and beliefs about this exposure and what are they going to think. It no longer became about that. It was more about I have something that I want to share with others. I have something that I absolutely love, and that I have to take that action instead of thinking. I just got to do it.
Right. Right, absolutely. So you found some freedom by really getting out there and showing people your stuff. Now, do you think art? I was just, as you were saying that, I was thinking, even the toughest, roughest, rootinest, tootinest cowboy, if art was just to disappear off the face of the earth. Uh-huh. I think even the toughest guy would feel a very big loss. I think art is really ingrained in our psyche much deeper than we think it is. And I was also thinking, about, we're talking about the phi ratio and how, the leaves grow in the phi ratio. They grow 1, then they grow 2, and then it looks black 2 and 1. makes 3, and then it goes 2 and 3 makes 5, and 3 and 5 makes 8, and that's how plants grow. They call it the Fibonacci sequence. And so we see that Fibonacci sequence in the paintings and the layout at Giza, and so, you know, the ancients knew a lot about this mathematics that we're just starting to rediscover, and sometimes turning a blind eye to. But you can go down to Cathedral and see the phi ratio between the two bell towers, and the circles. You know, anybody watching can kind of dig into that and look at Vesica Pisces, and the sacred geometry is all over in that architecture. Does art, we're talking about the Fibonacci sequence in the paintings, but the Fibonacci sequence is in nature. Is nature art?
I think it's all intertwined, absolutely. Nature is art. Nature brings us peace. Nature brings us serenity. I lived in Colorado at one point, and my favorite thing was to go hike in the mountains and be up there. The same thing happens to people with art. I think it's just a natural human response, maybe in our genetics, but we are drawn to it. Even people who aren't as good of art appreciators as you are, you have quite a bit of knowledge about it, which is great, they're called to it. But that's the thing, they're called to all different types. It's just, I think it's ingrained in our psyche, and that each artist should not be shy. Each artist needs to put their stuff out there, not be afraid, and be okay with somebody not liking it, being okay with somebody loving it. It doesn't matter how many people love it. If you reach one person, you know, you've done your job. And it is at our finest, I believe, because I've had my feedback on my art is, you know, just kind of these vivid reactions. And more females, of course, are, as a population, are drawn to it.
I was going to ask you that.
Yes.
This seems like this would appeal to women a bit more than
Yes.
men. But you did a steer.
Yes.
With some darker colors.
Yes.
And how did the men react to the?
They liked that one, yes.
Okay.
And then actually was bought recently by a private collector at another gallery.
Good, good. So do you have any aspirations that one day your art will be stolen by a famous thief?
Wouldn't that be great? Yes, that'd be fantastic.
That would be to me, if I was an artist, I want somebody to steal my painting and scurry it away, and that would be the highest compliment that I
Right.
could achieve.
Better get
But
some-
I see the world in
Yes.
very different ways sometimes.
Yes.
That's all in fun. So you have, your art is being collected a bit. And again, we're talking not even so much in matters of years, in matters of months.
Yes. I'm very
So
fortunate.
is this journey that you're on with the art, is that part of the art?
Yes, absolutely. And not being afraid of the unknown, because you don't know the supply. You don't know when somebody's going to just be called to it to buy it. Now, and that's the thing, is I have to put my faith in, I love what I do, and I have to put my faith that I'm going to be taken care of, because I am fortunate I get to do what I love to do. And whatever happens, happens. But if you don't mind, I might go back to the triangles.
Right.
In this particular piece, I kind of had some triangles going here, because essentially if that butterfly wasn't there in the corner, for instance, then you would just have all your focus right in that area. But what happens here by placing that there, I think you could start at any point in here, but you're going to trail up that eye, and then we have some highlights on the top of that horn. Then shoot down to this butterfly. You have a multitude of triangles that are occurring to flow throughout the painting. But say that wasn't there, then it would just be here. And then you'd be drawn more to that. So essentially, my goal is to create that symmetry in my particular pieces.
So this is set up in a certain way to activate a little bit of neurology, or activate something in the viewer's nervous system to create some brain activity that I can't help but looking. I feel like that cow's looking at me, and it's making me a bit nervous. It's like it maybe wants fed or something.
Yeah, it might be hungry. But no, speaking of that, I don't do it intentionally. My process is very intuitive. It's what I feel. So with the palette knife, when it goes down, I just go with it. So it's almost as if it's a natural occurrence.
Right. Well, you're in the pocket,
Yeah.
like a musician. They talk about being in the pocket.
Yeah.
So something takes over, and I used to be a drummer, not a very good one at all. But I know that at a certain point, the hand starts working on its own. You can't go tick, 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 tick. It never works. Hand's got to go tick, tick, tick. So I understand. And anybody achieves. Good pool players, good golfers, good musicians. They all talk about the unconscious taking over, and I think it's an unconscious journey, and I find that fascinating as a hypnotist, how we can create that pipeline between our conscious mind and our unconscious mind, and let that part of us. A lot of people talk about turning it over to God or turning it over to their unconscious. And being moved, and somehow their life starts working much better when they trust their intuition. Do artists get the experience of getting to abandon logic a bit and get intuitive, or do they get it too intuitive sometimes and need a little more logic?
Yes and yes.
Yes to all of it.
All of it, yes. Artists are kind of, I have a lot of artist friends. And being that we're creative brains, we oftentimes see things completely different.
Right. 20 seconds. Tell us who you are, how to get a hold of you, or how to view your art.
Yes, I am Sarah McWilliams. I have a Facebook page right now, Sarah McWilliams Art. My email, some people contact me through that for pet portrait commissions, Sarah McWilliams 3dart@gmail.com. Building a website right now.
Okay. Great. It's been a great interview. Thanks for informing us about art, local art. You're in Passageways. Go down to Passageways, take a look at some of the great art down there. Lots of First Friday stuff going on. I'm Clovis Colley. The show has been brought to you by Nebraska Counseling and Hypnosis Center. Check us out on Facebook. Check out our Twitter feed. Come back and see us again. Thanks for tuning in.